All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show, downtown San Francisco at Chipotle. I'm filling in for Dibs today on 95.7 The Game, so check me out on the radio from 2 to 6 tonight with Mark Willard. All right, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. The Krug Show is partnered with Underdog Fantasy this football season. And you can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game you play with real money. And this week, I'm going with the Thursday Night Football. T.J. Watt higher than 2 solo tackles. I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins higher than 4 receptions. Azeez Al-Shaair higher than 9.5 tackles and assists combined. Tyjae Spears higher than 19.5 rushing yards. And George Pickens higher than 4 receptions. You can enter the same as me, or you can make your own pick. Sign up using that link in the description and use the promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. Underdog Fantasy. All right, let's talk a little 49ers. A bunch of notes here on the bye week. Deebo Samuel today told Kay Adams that he is ready to go after the bye week. So Deebo is going to play next Sunday, a week from Sunday, against Jacksonville. So that's good news. We found out that today. Also, there was a little transaction today. Niners lost an offensive tackle as the Cleveland Browns have poached Niners offensive tackle off the practice squad, a developmental player, Leroy Watson. Leroy Watson played tight end at University of Texas at San Antonio, developmental player. He was a teammate of Spencer Burford, converted tight end, trying to play offensive tackle. He's really, really raw. Cleveland's having offensive tackle problems. Dawan Jones is hurt. So the Niners lose Leroy Watson. Now, short term, it doesn't really hurt because Leroy Watson was not going to get on the field anytime soon. Long term, it may hurt because Leroy Watson was thought to be a pretty good developmental tackle. So Trent Williams is probably coming back this week. You got Colton McKivitz at right tackle. You still have Jalen Moore. You still have Matt Pryor. It'll be interesting to see if the 49ers put another player on their 16-man practice squad. Now, they did sign offensive lineman Jesse Davis this week. He's a versatile veteran, 32-year-old offensive lineman, can play a little guard, play a little tackle, really can play all over the line. Versatility is his game. So they did add a player there in Jesse Davis. If you're looking for games of interest during the bye week this week, 2 games you want to keep your eye on. One is Seattle at Baltimore. Baltimore's a 5.5-point favorite over the Seahawks. If you're a Niner fan, you want to root hard for the Ravens. The other one is Cowboys and Eagles. Eagles are a 3-point favorite at home against Dallas, and I think you'd probably want to root for Dallas to knock off the Eagles, and hopefully, the Niners can get home field advantage in the NFC playoffs. We'll see how that all shakes out. Couple other interesting things, how are the Niners going to use that open practice squad spot? My guess is they may look for another defensive back just because they were unable to trade for a corner at the deadline. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they found themselves a defensive back to add to the mix on the practice squad. As far as Chase Young passed his physical, so he is officially a 49er. How about this? Chase Young and Randy Gregory combined are only going to cost the Niners $1.4 million this year in salary, which is absolutely huge. I mean, the fact that you could get 2 players like that and it would only cost you $1.4 million is really a great story. The Niners need that edge rush position to step up, whether it be Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Drake Jackson, Cleveland Farrell. The 49ers have only gotten 5 sacks and 30 pressures in the last 3 weeks of games. They need to get their pass rush dialed up, which was why one of the reasons they acquired Chase Young. Let's talk a little bit for a second about Nick Bosa. I did an interview in July with Chris Kocurek. Kocurek told me then, he's like, Krug, I cannot run. I said, are you going to play your number 1 line more than your backups? Because the Niners' number 1 line of Hargrave and Bosa and Drake and Armstead looked just so much better than their backups. And they were rotating guys through this summer guys like, Taco Charlton and Dalen Hayes. And I was looking at that depth, and I'm like, wow, they really lost some quality depth when they lost Ebukam and Amenahue and Willis. I said, are you going to play your number ones more snaps than you did last year? And he's like, no, absolutely not. He's like, I can't run Nick Bosa out there 65, 70 snaps a game, or he's not going to make it to the playoffs. And if he gets to the playoffs, he's not going to be worth a damn once he's there. I cannot run my guys into the ground by overplaying them. Well, interesting, if you look at the snaps, Nick Bosa last week against the Cincinnati Bengals played 68 snaps. 68 snaps for Bosa against the Bengals. That was his season high. In fact, Bosa has gone over 60 snaps in 4 games this year. The Rams game, and then the last 3 games, Cleveland, Minnesota, and Cincinnati. So if you're sitting there going, well, the Niners really didn't need Chase Young. Man, the Niners really didn't need an extra defensive end. They did, because they don't want to use Nick Bosa 65 to 70 snaps a game and have him run out of gas. So that was I think the big impetus to get Randy Gregory, and obviously the big impetus to get Chase Young. You have to limit the snaps of Nick Bosa going forward. A couple other notes. Niners roll into the bye week pretty banged up on the left side of the offensive line. Trent Williams has got an ankle problem. Aaron Banks has got turf toe. If they played a game this weekend, John Feliciano would play left guard for Aaron Banks. So the left side of that 49er offensive line is really, really banged up. And if you really look at it, the 49ers, if there's one part of their line that needs to step up, it's the interior of the offensive line. Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford. Brendel just got absolutely destroyed on the one play by DJ Reader. I'm having a hard time forgetting about that play. It's just sitting there etched in my memory from this weekend's games. And then Spencer Burford, I like Spencer Burford, and I think he's a good player long term. But man, he's had a rough year, and he needs to bounce back in a big way. So right now, the left side of the offensive line is dinged up. Feliciano would start for Banks at left guard if there was a game today. But man, they need the Banks, Brendel, Burford trio on that offensive line to step up and start playing and opening run lanes, or it's going to be a long year for the 49ers. And then one last note I want to throw in here as well. I saw Jeff Pazzolo, or I think it might be Dave Pazzolo. He's from Pro Football Focus, credible guy. He put out a stat today of the highest passer rating quarterbacks in the NFL on 25-plus yards downfield throws. Number 1 in the league as far as passer rating, dink and dunk himself, Brock Purdy. So when you hear, people going, yeah, he's dink and dunk, he's got this, he can't do that, he can't do this. Brock Purdy's got a 142.2 passer rating on throws 25-plus yards down the field. That is the number 1 passer rating in the entire league on throws 25-plus yards down the field. So, it's obvious that Brock doesn't have the biggest arm. It's obvious that there are guys with bigger arms than Brock Purdy. But if you're going to listen to the people saying, man, dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk, he can't do it, you might want to counter with Brock Purdy has the highest passer rating in the NFL on throws 25-plus yards down the field. Number 2, Kirk Cousins at 129.5. Number 3, C.J. Stroud at 127.1. Number 4, Russell Wilson at 124.3. Number 5, Sam Howell of the Commanders, 121.9. But how about that? Who would ever have thought that Brock Purdy has the highest passer rating on throws 25-plus yards down the field? So all the people who feel like you can't make throws down the field, the numbers say otherwise. All right, thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Check me out this afternoon on the radio with Mark Willard. And thanks to Underdog Fantasy for being a sponsor of the Krug Show. And remember, check that link in the description and use that promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.